Yeah, my computer decided to do a weird sort of update thingy, and yes, and wouldn't cooperate when I wanted to get in. So just had to let it run its course. So hopefully it won't muck me around too much during our time together this morning. I'm just going to check my phone is up to date and my volume seems right. Okay, cool. That seems good. Okay, so I can see a few people jumping on. Pop on and say hi if you're jumping on. Tell me where you're watching from. I love to know how far around the world I'm getting or how close to home I'm staying. It's great. Good morning, Jan and Anne. Yeah, so as you jump on, thanks for being with me this morning. Usually I take off my morning jumper, but it's so cold in my craft room today. You will see my morning jumper. Hopefully it won't come down too far. It's one of my it's my favourite. What I pop on as soon as I get out of bed in the morning. So I haven't quite managed to. It's so nice and snugly warm. I'm sort of staying in it for a wee while this morning anyway. Okay, so this card, as I mentioned in the event, if you've seen the event on my Facebook page, this card has been mulling itself around in my head for the last couple of weeks anyway, or a few days in earnest. I did mention in a couple of videos where I've used the delicate edges dies that I would like to use. This particular one here that sort of reminds me of sort of a kelp forest type thing, that I'd like to use that with our friends Like Seashells bundle. And yeah, I popped it together this morning, and hopefully it'll turn out okay when I share it with you now. So as I say, the delicate edges, that particular one from the delicate edges, and our friends are Like Seashells. This one we've had for a couple of years now, and it is continuing in the new catalogue. So if you haven't seen it and you like the look of what we do today, please jump online and grab it. It also has dies. It has the seashell dies that cut out most of these images as well. Yeah, so it's a really nice one. I really like it. I used it I had a dear friend who retired from work before me, and she was planning on spending most of her retirement walking along the beach near where she lives. So I made her retirement card with this one. And she really loved it. And last time I went to visit her, she'd been retired for quite a while. I went and visited her, and the card was still sitting on the shelf on proud display. So I don't know whether she knew I was coming and whipped it out real quick, or whether it had been there the whole time. I like to think it had been there the whole time. Okay, so this is the card I popped together this morning. As you can see, it's got the seaweed or the kelp there, and I've got some of the images from the friends of Like Seashells there as well. Yeah, so I haven't put that on a card base because I was really actually just mucking around with it this morning. So yeah, just to see whether I liked how it would turn out, and I do. I'm going to make a few changes with the card we make together. I'm going to put it on a proper card base for a start, because I really do quite like it, and I might change the sentiment. And I'm actually going to use 2 of the die cuts too, just to give that kelp a bit more of a kelpy feel, a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more volume. Okay, so I've got a soft, succulent card base here, normal size for me. Actually, it's a little bit bigger than normal because this kelp, I'm going to call it the kelp die, is actually taller than my normal 5.5. So I've gone 5 3/4, 5 3/4 by 8 1/4 scored in the middle. So basically half of our A4 size card base, cardstock. Then I've got a panel of basic white. Now this is an 1/8 of an inch smaller, and I've popped it through the embossing folder that I absolutely love for this sort of thing is the bark embossing folder. So you can see there, hopefully you can see in the light of my window, that it's got that sort of ripply effect. Obviously by its name it's meant to represent bark, but I think it actually looks really good for like the bottom of the sea or the sandy beach, or even the ripples on the water. It's sort of that whole sort of organic sort of thing, business happening going on there. So I'm going to pop that already done that, popped that through, and I'm going to pop it straight onto our card base as is. Trying to incorporate a little bit of ribbon in this, but I really couldn't see where it was appropriate, so no ribbon today. So I don't have to worry about feeding it up and under that particular layer, which is, let's face it, something I usually forget anyway. Here we are. So that's the card front there. Okay, I will eventually pop another piece of white on the inside, but we'll see. I might come back to that later. Okay, so we've got our card base there. As I say, I'm going to pad this out with a bit more of our kelpy dye. I've got 2 of them cut. These again are in soft saffron. No, soft succulent even. Maybe soft succulent would be better. Yes, it is soft succulent. And I've done 2 of them. And as you can see, and I don't know if you can, but I can see it's actually got some embellishment, some embossing on them as well. So they actually look sort of quite reedy. They've got the sort of the lines of their veins going up the middle of them, which is really, really nice. So what I thought I would do with these, as I mentioned, they are quite long, and they are a wee bit longer than the card, even though I've taken it to a long card. So what I'm going to have to do, obviously it's meant for, if someone does a 6x6 card or something like that. I'm going to actually, for this one, because I'm going to make it a little bit more, give it a bit more weed, I'm going to actually cut off that whole bit, as much as it breaks my heart. I'm going to cut that off just to get a little bit of length off the card. And then that's as neat as I can manage it at the bottom there. So that's going to be, one is up like that, and I won't get rid of that little piece. I might use it somewhere else. And then this one is going to be, I'm going to cut that off a wee bit shorter again. So I'm going to cut that off about here. Try and do it in line, in a sort of like natural line with the design. So it looks at least a wee bit natural. There we are. And this one, I'm going to pop it underneath. So as I say, I'm giving that a little bit of volume back at the bottom there. I'm going to have that coming out over to the left, to the right-hand side there, just to give it a bit more weed happening, if that makes sense. There we go. So that's where those are going to be. Now I might add them now just to get them on there, and we can move on to our shells. But as I said, that's sort of, I don't know whether it was meant, whether it was, the design was meant to look like kelp, but to me it just screams seaweed. Anyway, so let's pop some glue on those. Now I'm not going to go overly mad with the glue, and you'll see why in a minute, apart from the fact that it doesn't need a lot of glue. And you'll see my other reasoning very soon. I'll pop this one out there. And this one, a bit of glue. So I know I've got a couple of people wanting to order this delicate edges dies as a result of the card they saw at the weekend during my launch. So hopefully they'll come up with some wonderful ideas using it as well. Okay, there we are. There we go. So it's starting to look like the seaside. Well, under the sea anyway, in my view. Okay, so that's enough there. And again, I've got another little offcut here. We don't know. We might see how we can bring that in as well. Okay, so I'll pop that to the side. I have already stamped and die cut our little shells and sand dollars and stuff like that. I've got, from the stamp set, I've got this sand dollar, which I absolutely love. I think it's called a sand dollar. I don't think I've ever actually seen one in the flesh. I've got a starfish, seen plenty of those in the flesh, and a couple of those little shells there, that little shell there. So those are the 3 images I've used. Could obviously use the others as well, though they are quite large. And I didn't want to cover over too much of my beautiful seaside. They're quite large, these other ones, so we're sticking to the smaller ones. And I've got my blends, so I'm going to use my blends as usual. I'm going to start with my dark crumb cake, she says, making sure to put the words around the right way. I have a horrible habit of calling it cake crumb, which I think they should invent a new colour just for me and call it cake crumb so I don't continuously make a fool of myself. Oh, should let you know that I've stamped these images not in black. I've actually stamped them in soft suede because I really, oh, there goes the lid. I really wanted to give it that, I wanted them to be sort of have more softer, sort of softer edges, but more not harsh black edges. So this is my dark crumb cake. I even had to check it then. Even when I think I've got it right, I haven't. You know, sometimes you get something that gets stuck in your brain and it doesn't matter how many times you remind yourself, you just can't lock it in. Crumb cake happens to be one of those for me. And I worked in the financial industry, and the other one that I could never get, and this is really embarrassing, was the difference between net and gross. And so when you're working in the financial industry and someone says to you they want you to pay X money gross, and I'd have to ask somebody sitting next to me or Google it or something if I didn't want to embarrass myself too much. Which one was net and which one was gross, and which, if I had to gross it up by anything before I did the payment. Bit embarrassing. But don't have to worry about that now too much. Okay, so that's my dark crumb cake and that's my light crumb cake. So, and I'm going to take it even lighter again. I'm using the ivory. So this is the sort of, it's a creamier colour, but it's lighter again. So I'm just going to add that as well. So I'm giving this little sea dollar a wee bit of dimension here. I suppose the fact that I don't think I've ever seen one in the flesh means that I could probably get away with painting or colouring it any colour I wanted, because I can just claim ignorance and say that's what I thought they looked like. So anyway, that's my little sand dollar there. Okay, so he's going to pop over there. Okay, so our little shells and starfish. Seen plenty of starfish. Get those all the time down here. I've got my dark soft succulent here, and I'm just giving it a little bit of darkness in the sort of veiny bits, the inside bits, and down to his mouth there. Usually see a lot of starfish down at our local beach after there's been a particularly bad storm, and usually when I'm down there with my golden retriever Ruby, she will find them, and before I can stop them, she usually devours about 3. As many as she can find, she'll eat. A typical food-driven golden retriever, that one. I was terrified to start with because, you know, that I was worried about them being toxic. And I'm sure they are, or at least some of them are. But thankfully, the ones that she found those particular times at my particular beach weren't toxic. So she's still with us. Okay, so I've got a couple of little soft succulent starfish, and I've got 3 of these little shells. So I only used 2 on the first one, but I'm going to use 3 this time. So I'm going to start with light crumb cake with these. I'm just going to give them a darker or as dark as crumb cake could be, down at their little bottoms where the hinge would be. And then I'll go straight to my ivory for the next bit. I'm not taking that straight to the end, all the way to the end, because I'm going to bring in my colour lifter, which is sort of like a, it's a bit hard to explain what it is. It sort of lifts the colour out and makes it lighter. So I'm just going to use that at the very tips, just so that the ivory merges into white, if that makes sense. So down to no colour at all. So they are very, very pale. You probably can't even see any colour on those, but I'll bring them close. So they're just an off-white, eh? Okay, so we've got those three there, a couple of starfish and a sea dollar. Okay, so this is my sentiment box that I'm eventually going to use. I've cut this from the Stylish Shapes. Can't reiterate enough how handy the Stylish Shapes die set is. Stitched circles, stitched squares, and some of these wonderful stitched sentiment boxes as well. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to pop the images onto our seaweed what are we calling it? Tower. There we are. And I'm going to, and the reason I said I'm not going to use a huge amount of glue is because these, I'm going to pop a couple up high, sort of up the length of it, and I'm going to sort of tuck them in and behind, so it looks like they're sort of caught in and behind the kelp. So I might pop that little guy up there, and then pop another one of these down in here. He looks like he's just poking his nose out. There. Pop these two here. And then I'm going to pop, once I've done my embellishment, I'm going to pop that over to the right-hand side, if that makes sense there. Okay, so we might do our sentiment first. The original one, I've done Happy Birthday to a Beautiful Friend. I found it was slightly wide. It did actually get slightly cut off top and bottom. So none of those are particularly good. Wishing you all the best, the very best is too long, I've decided. Thank you is too short. So there wasn't anything really there that would fit my sentiment box appropriately. So I'm going to use Best Wishes from Happiness Abounds. I think the font fits okay, and it's, you know, fairly what's the word? Fairly all occasions, fairly general. So I can pop a birthday or a congratulations or whatever I want on the inside once I do it. Okay, so there's my best wishes. I'm going to do that in the soft suede as well. We'll keep that going. Oh no. Phew. My little shell got stuck there. So just best wishes, which is a bit of a shame because I really do like the font in that Friends Are Like Seashells. And if I was using a bigger sentiment box, I would definitely go back to that Happy Birthday to a Wonderful Friend or Beautiful Friend, but I'll stick with Best Wishes here. So that's going to go, excuse me, it's fallen off the edge of my thing. That's going to go over this sort of way. And then I'll bring another shell. Now I did have this sorted in my head. I've got another shell that I'll pop there. And I did do the third shell for a reason. I can't remember what it was now. Maybe up over here. Up here, no, too much there. Anyway, I'll bring that back in a sec. Let's get this all stuck down. So, now sea dollar. And our starfish. Okay. Now this little guy that I've got tucked in up under here, I'll give him a bit of glue and pop him in. And this little one down here. Okay, I'm going to pop some dimensionals on the back of my sentiment. And this is pretty much done. So as I say, off to the right hand side, slightly covering over a wee bit of our sea dollar. Ooh, straight would be good, Julianne. Eek. Here we are. And then this other little guy here, this little shell, I'm just going to pop a dimensional on the back of him. It's pretty much the size of a dimensional himself, so you could probably go a little one if you had little ones. And I'm just going to pop him off to the side of our sentiment there. Now this little one, where are we going to put that? I think maybe up here. Yeah, just to give a bit of something, or maybe this side. No, I think back over here. I think here. Yep, there you go. You should never change your design mid-video, but I have. So anyway, we'll go put that there. Okay, so what do we think of that? So I don't like that there at all. No, too much there. Maybe up here. Yep, there. That'll be better. I did want to use it. I'm getting all stubborn now, and I definitely wanted to use it, but not there. Okay, so there we are. We have our shells and weed and everything happening. I might actually, I said I wanted to use this piece of kelpy thing. Now that, to me, that seems sort of almost plain around there. So I wonder if I can pop that up under here. Just give us a little bit even more volume to our kelp. Yeah, that I like. I do like that. So I'm just going to trim that little bit of untidiness from the bottom. Pop some glue on. Now I'm going to put some dimensionals, not dimension, I'm going to put some embellishments on here. And they are also from a different suite, but they sort of lend themselves so well to this design, I feel. Okay, so we've got that there. That, yeah, I like that. That sort of pads it out a bit more, gives a bit more volume down the bottom there. I'm going to use and these are still available this year as well, the faux sea glass shapes. Perfect sea glass, and this is a sea theme. So I'm going to use these down here. They're sort of a greeny tinge. I think they're supposed to be mint macaron, but I'm not quite sure what colour they're supposed to be. But anyway, I'm going to just pop them in the little sort of nooks and crannies of our weed, just to fill in some spots. There we are. And they just add a little bit of interest as well. Perfect. Okay, I really like that. I hope you like that one as well. Definitely that weed, that little edging is definitely giving itself to that sort of sea, what's the word? Seascape, seaweed, kelp type look. And I love those images from the Friends of Like Seashells as well. So there we go. So I've padded this one out a bit and added a bit to it. I don't know. Actually, now I look at it next to, I'm sort of actually thinking I quite might even just prefer the original. Sometimes you add a bit too much to something and it goes a bit over the top. This one's sort of quite almost understated, sort of a bit plainer. But anyway, so there we are. So that's my sea-themed, kelp-themed delicate edges card. Hopefully you like that one. Yeah, everything, as I said, available in the current catalogue, the bark embossing folder, the Friends of Like Seashells, the stylish shapes, and of course the delicate edges dies with our kelp. If you haven't seen the other dies in the delicate edges, I've used a couple of them already. So there's our kelpie one we've used. This one is a series of leaves. This is the one I thought I'd use most of, but I have a couple of times. It's coming up in an upcoming class. A little viney one and this sort of lacy one as well, which is really nice. So I've used that at the weekend also. Okay, so that is my video for you today. 26 minutes. Gosh, nice quick midweek crafting. Gotta love it. Okay, so let me know if you like that, which one you prefer, the original sort of plainer one almost, or the one that I've elaborated a wee bit more. As I say, I think I'm headed towards my original, but anyway, they're both lovely and I'm sure would be appreciated. Okay, so thanks for joining me. Have a great day. I will see you all again over the weekend. Yeah, take care and I'll see you then. Okay, bye.